Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Hawks Latest, your number one source for news, updates, rumors, opinions, and you guessed it, the latest and the greatest regarding the Atlanta Hawks. I'm your host, Zach Langley, aka Langley ATL. Today, we've got a full slate of updates to break down for you. This is the 152nd episode of Hawks Latest presented by FanArt, so hopefully, you guys have been enjoying the ride. I know I have, but like I said, we got a lot to break down today, so before this video gets started, if you guys could go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe, it'd be very much appreciated. It would go a very long way. But yeah, lots to cover today because guess who lost again? Of course, your Atlanta Hawks. We are struggling right now. This is a bad stretch of basketball. Although, like these past few games, it's been getting better. You know, they're fighting, they're hanging in there despite injuries, despite whatever's going on. They're trying, man. But yeah, Monday night brought another loss. And this time it was to the NBA's best team, the Oklahoma City Thunder. While the Hawks showed fight early and even led at halftime, it was always, of course, it was that third quarter where things really unraveled. And it flipped the script entirely. Even Atlanta stayed in there late in the game, but it was never going to be enough against a team as good as the Thunder. The loss extended Atlanta's losing streak to 7 games, and it's just continuing to drop them further and further down in the Eastern Conference play-in mix. And beyond the loss itself, there's some larger conversations going on, and that's really going to be all of all of today's episode. It's just happening around this team. The Hawks held a players-only meeting following the loss to the Miami Heat, and that happened a few days ago. And we did not get the chance to break that down yet. So I'm going to talk about that and the potential impacts of that, what that might mean for like Quinn Snyder. And also like I will be talking about in just around this video, just some of the decisions that Quinn Snyder has made, just whether in the lineup rotation, just some things that I have not been too fond of. And then also at the same time, trade speculation is really starting to heat up. I mean, I think it was yesterday morning, or it was like the day before. Like we were just getting Hawks report after Hawks report after Hawks report, and it makes you feel like it's intentional. Like I don't know if this is just like a motivation factor, just getting some guys, just more on track and trying to play better to not get traded or whatnot. But like it feels intentional. We're seeing a lot of news specifically about the Hawks, like way more than any other NBA team right now, and that's not usual. That's not ordinary. I mean, we're the Atlanta Hawks after all. So I don't know. We got a lot to cover in today's episode. So I'm going to waste no more time in the intro and go ahead and start when the Hawks took the floor in Oklahoma City and fell 140 to 129. And it was a strong start and, an impressive individual performance really on both sides. The Hawks played decently well given all the factors, all the concerns that we had going into the game. I mean, giving up 140 points in regulation is never ideal. It's never exactly what you want to see, but this is the Oklahoma City Thunder. I mean, they were on track to be the best team ever this season, but then they for some reason they just can't beat the San Antonio Spurs. So like 3 of their 4 or 5 losses. So I think it's 5. I don't know. But like 3 of those losses have been to the Spurs, so they have a kryptonite for sure. But in this game, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was the clear headliner. Because of course he was. He's so difficult to defend because if you try to defend him well, they're going to call a foul. And if you don't, he's going to make you pay because he is a very talented shot maker. But he scored 39 points out of their 140 points on 15 to 24 shooting. His whole life is consistent. He made all 7 of his free throws, and he opened the game by scoring OKC's first 8 points. Just started that game on an absolute heater, and I was like, wow, this is going to be a long night. But, the Hawks they kept fighting. They stayed in there. In doing so, he has a crazy streak going on. He extended his streak to 104 consecutive games with at least 20 points. I mean, what? Like, that's unheard of. This guy's consistent. This guy is, one of the best players in the NBA. And so it's, just remarkable level of consistency. And it continues to fuel Oklahoma City's league best record that, they're not going to lose anytime this season. They may suck against the Spurs, but this is a really, really good basketball team who's going to be the 1 seed in the West and the best team in the NBA. And they're probably going to repeat as NBA champions. Chet Holmgren in this game, OKC center, he added 24 points, 9 rebounds, and 3 blocks. I mean, he's a guy who's been torching the Hawks, all year. That first matchup against the Atlanta Hawks, he kind of lit us up. I think he had a 30 bomb, and so in this one he had 24 and 9 and 3 blocks, and just was very impactful on both ends of the floor. Yeah, Atlanta could use a 7-foot big, but no. Ours doesn't play. Ours never ever sees the floor. And Jalen Williams, they're kind of like second or third option, probably their second best player, like, him at his peak. I would say so. I mean, he definitely was last year. He kind of taking a step back this year, but he has been dealing with injury. He had 20 points, 9 rebounds, and 7 assists, just showcasing that all-around impact that he has. The Thunder are now 28-5, and they showed exactly why they sit atop the NBA standings. For Atlanta, we had some strong individual performances. Nickeil Alexander-Walker was playing against his cousin SGA, and he led the way with 30 points, and he knocked down some of the degree of difficulty on some of these threes are ridiculous. I mean, when he is on, he is on. He will let it fly from anywhere, and he will knock it down. He also had like a left-hand half-court shot to end the first quarter. I mean, that was one of the most ridiculous shots I've seen in a very long time. Onyeka Okongwu continued his hot stretch of basketball. He had one of his best performances of the year at 26 and 14. That came just 2 days after he dropped 31 and 14 in Atlanta's previous matchup. And so, like, in this game, the Hawks were extremely shorthanded. They were playing without Trae Young due to a quad injury, he was still. It's the same, right knee injury. Like, it's just, they're managing his full on return. And with that, him playing the back-to-back, playing the game against the Knicks, they wanted to just go ahead and rest him for this one and then let him recover for the game at home tomorrow, which, maybe we'll have everyone healthy. I'll have a full breakdown of that in tomorrow's episode, but there's a chance we get the team fully healthy for the game tomorrow at home, which could be huge for momentum going into the new year. Jalen Johnson was out due to illness. He missed that game. I don't think this is supposed to be a long-term thing. Not a lot of details there, though. And Kristaps Porzingis, obviously, as well, was sidelined. And yeah, despite those absences, Atlanta competed. Shea scored 15 points in the first quarter, but the Hawks answered. They were going, really just shot for shot with them. And his 3-point play to tie the game late in the period, Shea did, and then this is when Alexander Walker hit that left-hand half-court shot that I was just mentioning. And the Hawks continued to push in the second quarter. I mean, they stayed right at it. Luke Kennard hit a 3 to extend the lead to 54-44, and, although Oklahoma City closed the gap before halftime, another buzzer beater, which was this time an 8-footer from Dyson Daniels, it sent Atlanta into the break with a 74-70 lead, an incredible scoring half. Everything unraveled in the third quarter, however. Oklahoma City came out with a completely different level of intensity. They outscored Atlanta 30-11 to really just take control of the game, and they never lost it again. Shea scored 9 points during the run, and Lou Dort added 6. I mean, they were knocking down threes. It was 28 points in less than 5 minutes, and then suddenly the Thunder were up double digits. It was like they were up by 15 at one point, and it just wasn't looking good for the rest of the game. They made that one last push. It brought Atlanta within 3 off of another Luke Kennard 3, and Oklahoma City immediately responded with a 7-point run to really close the quarter, taking a 113-103 lead in the fourth quarter. And so, yeah, the Hawks never really recovered, and this is where some of the questionable rotation decisions come in, because Zachary Rizashea knocked down a late 3, and then immediately after he blocked a shot on the other end. I mean, just a pure momentum sequence, and then a couple plays later, he took a shot that maybe he probably shouldn't have taken, but it was a decently open look, so I'm not mad at him taking the shot. But then Quinn took him out and then just didn't let him see the floor one more time in the game. He closed the game with Luke Kennard over him, and I could not have disagreed with that decision more. I think that was a very poor decision. I think Rizashea was giving Atlanta much more of a boost on the defensive end than Kennard could have. OKC's got these lengthy guys. They've got dudes who can impact both ends of the floor. You need versatile defenders against them. You need a guy like Zachary Rizashea to close the game over Luke Kennard. And so it was really frustrating because Luke Kennard, on one of the final possessions, he just pump faked 3 times instead of shooting that corner 3, and it completely blew a possession. And then he did the same thing 2 possessions later, and so that iced the game for Atlanta. I mean, I'm not saying they would have won without the Luke Kennard hesitation, but it seriously aided in them losing, and it didn't even give them a shot. So I was extremely frustrated watching that late game scenario. I don't know. I've always been a person who's been defending, Quinn and some of the decisions he's made with Zachary Rizashea, not playing him as many minutes as I would like, but I think last night was a little bit ridiculous. You're down 3 guys, 3 of your top guys, and last year's number 1 overall pick can't see any more than 23 minutes. I understand he got in foul trouble early, but I think that's still ridiculous. I think there's no excuse for that, especially because he was playing well. The plus minuses don't truly reflect the impact that Reza Shea was having on that game. It's unfair to him, and he should be playing more. I mean, that is my standpoint on that. Like, it's plain and simple. There was no reason that he only should have played 23 minutes last night. And so, yeah, the Thunder also scored 70 points in the paint compared to just 36 for Atlanta. I mean, but, the Hawks won the three-point battle. And so, like, they shot 46% on 54 attempts. They tied their franchise record with 25 three-pointers made. It was just a shootout. Like, this Hawks defense is not good. And you would think that, with, two of their more poor defenders out of the lineup, that they would be able to at least be a little bit better defensively, but that wasn't even the case. It's a culture thing. It's a scheme problem. The Hawks are not a good defensive team. The defense has been unraveling for weeks, like well before Trae Young even thought about coming back into the lineup. So there's kind of my rant a little bit, but yeah, the Hawks lost to the Thunder last night, and this moves us on to our next segment, which is going to be about Atlanta's players-only meeting that happened just after the Friday night loss to the Miami Heat, which was one of the losses of the losing streak, where Atlanta had lost at home, and it was a very disappointing one. This was a great opportunity to get back on track. The Heat had lost like 7 of their last 8. They were 2-8 in their last 10 games, same as the Hawks. The Hawks were 2-8 in their last 10 games. But after the loss, Nickeil Alexander-Walker and Jalen Johnson revealed that they held a players-only meeting. And players-only meetings are something that, you don't see a whole lot, especially ones that are made public like this. And it was intentional in it being made public because, in the media room, we got to talk to 3 players instead of the normal 2. And 2 of the players mentioned that they did have the players only meeting. So it definitely seemed a little intentional. And the fact that it was being put out to the public also seemed intentional as well. But yeah, it's something that always raises eyebrows, whether it's for good or for bad. You don't usually see a players only meeting this early into the season. I mean, obviously we're struggling and we do need it. We need we need to ground ourselves. We need to understand where we're at as a team. But like seeing it this early in the season is crazy. It's almost unheard of. And so Nickeil Alexander-Walker and Jalen Johnson were the 2 that spoke publicly about it. And both of them kind of emphasized accountability and seriousness. I mean, Alexander-Walker described it as a real sit down and acknowledged that the team needed to be better. And Jalen Johnson echoed that sentiment, saying that multiple players spoke. Like people were speaking up. People were just clearing their minds, letting everything that they want to be known. And so he said that the conversation felt productive. And so clearly, after that players-only meeting, like you're starting to see better habits. I mean, the defense still sucks, but you're starting to see better habits. And like some of this has really shown up on the court. Some of the stuff that they addressed in the meeting has shown on the court. Like the past 2 games that they have played since that meeting have been down to the wire. I mean, if you want to consider this OKC game one that was down to the wire, I mean, it wasn't a blowout. So I mean, we can start there. I mean, you can argue that if Atlanta was fully healthy, we maybe would have gotten blown out by the Thunder. So it's stuff like that. And then the Knicks game, that was one that they let slip away. They very well could have won that game, but there were just some stupid late game decisions and so forth. And yeah, Atlanta rallied from in that Knicks game. They were down 18, and so their resilience kind of put them back into that game. And so let them briefly take the lead in the 4th quarter. And so it was a level of fight that they had been missing in previous games. Like up until that Knicks game, it was just a lack of fight, lack of effort. Now these past 2, they're showing effort. They're still not winning because the schedule sucks. It's really difficult. But I mean they're showing effort. They're showing fight, and that's a good starting point. That's not what you need to be a champion, but I mean, well, it's not the only thing you need to be a champion, but it is a very good start. And so the Hawks' underlying numbers suggest that they're closer to average than terrible. I mean, heading into that game against the Knicks, I mean, they're 16th in offensive rating, 17th in defensive rating, 18th in net rating. I mean, just mid. We're mid. We're a mid team right now, at least. All it's going to take is just one win streak to kind of put these guys back in the Eastern Conference contention. That shows how open the East is and how much of an opportunity the Hawks have, and they need to capitalize off of it. Context matters. Atlanta has some flat-out unacceptable performances, like the lifeless loss to the Miami Heat and, the complete lack of defense in both of the Chicago games, but really that first one, that was really bad. And, expectations were so much higher heading into the season. I mean, the Hawks were 15-19 through 34 games. If you had told me that, heading into the season when I was making all these off-season videos that we would be 15-19 through 34 games, I would have been like, I quit. No, I'm kidding. But I would have been really, really frustrated, after acquiring Kristaps Porzingis and Nickeil Alexander-Walker and Luke Kennard and just all the hype in the offseason, only 15 wins through 34 games. It's really disappointing. But it's good that the players are recognizing that they are not good right now, and they need to be better. And the players only meeting reflects, these struggles, and it's good. It's a good sign that they're taking accountability and wanting to win. While the team took encouragement from the Knicks game, long term sign from a players only meeting may not be good. They often indicate internal frustration and maybe a disconnect between expectations and execution. I like it that they're taking accountability, but it does raise some questions about Quinn Snyder's future. I have been very hesitant to kind of talk about Quinn Snyder's future on here because it's a very complex thing to consider. But players only mean this may not be a good sign for Quinn Snyder's long term future here, even if nothing changes immediately, which I'm not saying it will. But it could be a sign for what's to come at some point. I'm going to leave y'all with that. But then let's transition into the next segment of today's episode, which is going to be covering Trae Young, because there have been some, and not necessarily to say that the Hawks are going to trade Young or they want to trade Young at all, but I think for the first time, really in a long time, they're at least open to it. I don't think this has ever been something they very seriously considered. Regardless of reports saying that they have been. I think at this point, I think all options are on the table, just considering how the Hawks have started. And Trae Young, it starts there. It starts at the top. So 34 games of the season, like we said, the Atlanta sits at 15-19. It's 10th in the Eastern Conference. I mean, we are on the very edge of the play-in right now, which is a very disappointing start, as we have said. And Young has not played in many of the games. He's only played in 10 games due to that, MCL sprain they suffered early in the season. The results have been very concerning. The Hawks are 2-8 with Trae on the floor and 13-11 without him. So it's like without him, they're not very good, but they're better. And this is just talking about on paper. Now, if you want to get into the details of offensive rating or defensive rating or any other factors that imply a team is better or worse without a player, we can do that in other episodes. But there was a specific report that came out 2 days ago when I was talking to you in the beginning of the episode of, there were so many Hawks reports. It felt intentional. It was like Hawks report after Hawks report after Hawks report. One of the Hawks reports was about Trae Young, and it was, a person that hasn't been on the trade train. Wow, that was a little difficult to say. Trade train. But he hasn't been someone that has been really pushing that agenda. But he did just mention it was Tim McMahon. He noted that he recently suggested that the Hawks may already be positioning themselves for an eventual separation, and he says that he's probably available at the right price. And so he noted that Atlanta obviously made no effort to extend Young, which we covered in the offseason, and this is kind of a signal when it comes to a franchise player. He also added that trading Trae would not be easy with limited teams willing or able to absorb his contract and build around his skill set. And it's true. This is not a guy who's easy to build around. But the Hawks are at least attempting it for the first time this year, which it's crazy that it took this long to finally try to build a competent team around Trae, but whatever. You can't control that type of stuff. And Young is earning $45.9 million this season, and so that is already going to be a hard contract to move off of. I don't think they're going to, move off of it in the season, or especially right now, not this far away from the deadline. But it's going to be hard to move off of regardless. And he actually holds a $48.9 million player option for the 2026-27 season before becoming a free agent in 2027. So now we're kind of looking at, Young's probably, considering the market for him right now, he's probably going to end up opting into that player option. We've kind of noted it being a sure thing that he opts out of it to get more money or a long-term contract, but, maybe he opts into it if the Hawks don't trade him this year or, just let it ride out and he doesn't have a great year, as it progresses. And so, while Trae's peak remains that 2021 Eastern Conference Finals run, league-wide skepticism persists about whether a Trae-centric team can truly contend for a championship. And I guess we aren't going to know for some time. We're going to see. And to be clear, I want to clear things up because I'm always hesitant, like the Quinn Snyder thing. I'm always hesitant to start a trade conversation because it opens up something that a rabbit hole that you don't want to go down. I don't think a lot of the fan base it can be neutral about talking about a Trae Young trade. I mean, one side is so hell bent on him staying, and one side is so hell bent on him leaving. They like there's no in between. There's no common ground. There's no let's look in the mirror and just evaluate all options. It's either we love Trae, we hate Trae. So I'm always hesitant to even open the door for that conversation because I really like Trae. I'm younger. When we drafted Trae, I was really young, and so it would be like a difficult pill to swallow. But you gotta start looking in the mirror at some point and being like, hey. Is this team truly better in the long term without him? And I don't think the Hawks are going to trade him this season. I'm going on record to say that, but it may genuinely be the first time in his tenure where they may be considering it. And that alone does spark a shift in some organizational thinking. And it is a conversation for that is going to last us for a lot of the season. So finally, we turn to Zachary Risache. We're moving from one trade rumor to another trade rumor because Risache was drafted number 1 overall in the 2024 NBA draft by the Atlanta Hawks, which that is not aging beautifully. I still believe in Zach as a player, but if you look at some recent number 1 picks and also some players in the 2024 draft class, I mean, it's starting to not age very well because I like what Zach can bring on the court, but it just isn't a number 1 pick skill set. We've known that for some time. We know he isn't a traditional number 1 pick, but the former number 1 overall pick has very much struggled in his sophomore season. I think he played well against the Thunder last night, but overall in the year, he's just averaging 10.7 points per game, 2.9 rebounds, and 1.5 assists while often playing like 20 minutes a night or under 20 minutes a night. I mean, his minutes share in like the past 4 games it's been so low. He has not been playing any sort of minutes that suggest that he's a player that the organization views highly moving forward or, by Quinn Snyder in general. His shooting splits are 46% from the field and 33% from 3 and also 68% from the line. I mean, not bad numbers, but like not great, shooting splits, they're solid. And there was an expected leap for him going into his 3rd year. I mean, it was 2nd year. Not 3rd year, and it just simply has not materialized like in any way. And so Hawks fans are growing frustrated with him, and Hawks personnel maybe as well. I mean, I know Quinn Snyder is certainly frustrated by it. Actually, I don't even know if he's frustrated by it because I don't think he had any intention on giving Risache any big minutes, just heading into the season. But, that's been on full display, and Risache has not been playing super well, consistently well. And so this was another one of the Hawks reports that we were talking about in the beginning of today's episode. NBA insider Mark Stein, who he's very tapped in. He's very reliable. Some people disagree with him. He was also another guy who was saying that the Hawks are probably open to trading Trae. They will move off of him at the right price. And so that's why there's a lot of smoke there, and there's a lot of smoke about Risache. Because he was the first one to even mention that the Hawks may consider trading Zachary Risache. He talked about it when he was talking about the Anthony Davis deal. And he said that they would be willing to include Risache in a trade if it was the right scenario. Particularly if it helps them pursue a star like an Anthony Davis or anyone else, really, like a Giannis or anyone of that caliber. He reported that Atlanta could consider packaging Risache with expiring contracts like Kristaps Porzingis and Luke Kennard, though draft compensation would still be very much a sticking point. Importantly, Jalen Johnson and Atlanta's 2026 unprotected first from the Pelicans and Bucks are considered 2 of Atlanta's untouchables. It looks like those are the 2 building blocks, and really everything else is on the table. Like, just summing up all these sections, all the trade talk we are mentioning, it looks like those are the common ground. Those are the things that the organization knows that they're not going to part ways with, because those are the 2 building blocks for the future. I want to know from you guys, is it too early to give up on Risache? Like, would you part with him if the right package came? It may be like a thing where the Hawks, Anzi Saleh has proven that he's bold, and so, this could be another example of that. If the Hawks want to pursue a major upgrade without moving Trae Young, though, like, Risache is probably going to have to be included. I mean, he's making like $10 to $13 million, and it's a very valuable trade chip. He still has a lot of potential, unlocked potential that, maybe he could thrive in another situation. I don't want to get rid of him. I don't want to trade him off, but it's a possibility, and, maybe it may prove to be wise. So this next month is going to be critical for his development as the trade deadline approaches, and we see how Atlanta as a team just continues to perform, and how his minutes share continues to be managed, because I think it's been a little ridiculous how little he's been playing, but there's justification, at least, because he doesn't provide a lot on the court when he is not playing well. So to recap, The Hawks are at a pivotal point, balancing short-term struggles with long-term uncertainty, and they're trying to stay afloat in a very competitive Eastern Conference. So that's going to do it for today's episode of Hawks Latest. If you enjoyed today's breakdown, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss a single update here on the channel. We're going to be pumping out videos every single day, keeping you guys informed on the latest and the greatest regarding the Atlanta Hawks. But let me know down below in the comments what were your thoughts on the Hawks' loss to the Thunder. What are your thoughts on the players-only meeting that was held? Do you think there was some productivity that came out of that? What are your thoughts on trading Trey and Zachary Rizichet? Like, what would your thoughts be on trading both? Give me some trade packages down below. And once again, thank you guys so much for watching. I'm Zach Langley, aka Langley ATL, and I will see you guys next time.